Hi all, welcome to my channel Semper Astra. My name is Maggie and usually in my videos I talk about topics related to blindness. However, one of my hobbies is testing fragrances, wearing fragrances and also recommending to others my favorite fragrances. And this is why in today's video I would love to share with you my thoughts on Valentina Eau de Parfum from Valentino brand. However, before I move to discussing this beautiful fragrance in more detail, I would love to say that I would be very grateful for your subscriptions, likes and for your comments. And I also wanted to mention that it is thanks to your support that I can further develop my channel and that my videos may reach those people to whom my content may be interesting and helpful. Valentina Eau de Parfum was released to the market in 2025 and it was developed by Roberto Morellas and by Olivier Cresp. When talking about this fragrance, it is very important to mention that in 2011, the fragrance with exactly the same name, Valentina, was released by Valentino brand. This fragrance from 2011 was discontinued after several years, and in 2025 new Valentina Eau de Parfum was released to the market. When preparing to share with you my thoughts on this fragrance, I came across information that was explaining that Valentina Eau de Parfum from 2011 and Valentina Eau de Parfum from 2025 are not the same fragrances, and that Valentina from 2025 is a modernized version of Valentina from 2011. Unfortunately, I never had an opportunity to test Valentina from 2011, and this is why in today's video I will only talk about Valentina Eau de Parfum from 2025. The reason why I wanted to introduce you to this beautiful fragrance is that this scent combines many characteristics that I value in fragrances most. First of all, this fragrance has two sides, we could say, two characteristics that I really love in perfumes from the note point of view. So on one hand, this fragrance is very innocent, sweet, light, very zesty, very bright, but at the same time it has very elegant, very rich and very sophisticated notes. In some ways, these two sides to this fragrance beautifully complement one another, but also in some points and in some ways they contrast with one another, which creates a very beautiful and interesting outcome. What is more, in my opinion and from my experience, this fragrance is very dynamic in the way how the notes present themselves and in the way it projects. So usually fragrances are projecting in a linear way. So initially we can enjoy the top notes of the fragrance, then we move on to enjoying heart notes of the fragrance, and finally we enjoy the base notes of the fragrance. However, in this particular fragrance, I believe that all of it is very dynamic. So at one point we may enjoy most the heart notes, then the base notes, and suddenly, out of the blue, we are go back to enjoying the top notes again, and it is intermingling throughout the whole duration of the lasting power of the fragrance, which in my opinion it's interesting because one minute this fragrance seems to be more sweet, more innocent, another minute it is more elegant and more sophisticated, and it's forever surprising you. In what is more, the projection is also very dynamic. For example, when you will be sitting still and doing some gentle work like typing or reading, this becomes more of the skin scent. However, when you get up, you start walking and you start doing more dynamic work, this fragrance starts projecting again more expansively. So we can imagine that 1 minute we can barely send this scent around us, but another minute it kind of explodes again and it surprises us with its presence again. I really appreciate fragrances like that. Now I will move on to describing individual notes. So the top notes in Valentina Eau de Parfum from 2025 are the strawberry and bergamot. And from my experience, the note of strawberry in this fragrance is very realistic and I would say natural. Whenever I experience this scent, I can easily picture myself having a basket of freshly picked strawberries just in front of me. And the scent reminds me very much of the fresh strawberries, but also of the strawberry juice that we can enjoy when we cut up the fruit. The bergamot note in this scent, in my opinion, is not very much noticeable as an individual note, but thanks to the bergamot note in this fragrance, the sweetness of the strawberry, it's not cloying and not kind of sticky and not heavy at all. Thanks to bergamot note, the top notes in this fragrance are very bright, very zesty, and very fresh and energizing. The heart notes in this fragrance are jasmine, sambac, and patchouli. And if you are a person who is slightly scared and slightly wary of patchouli notes, I want to reassure you that in this particular scent, patchouli is not this very deep, earthy, damp patchouli. This note is still very complex. This note is still very rich, but I would say that it is on a lighter and gentler side of what patchouli can be in fragrances. What is more, the patchouli note is beautifully complementing the note of jasmine sambac, which is another very prominent and very bold flowery note. And both of these flowery notes together create this impression of holding huge bouquet of blooming flowers, and the flowery notes in this fragrance give this sense of elegance, richness, sophistication to this fragrance, and they make it very multidimensional and very deep. And definitely the flowery notes are very prominent in this fragrance, but because the top notes are also very dynamic, they are kind of not overriding the top notes. And I don't know how it's done, but somehow this gentleness of the top notes is beautifully kind of complementing and kind of harmonized with these prominent flowery notes. The base notes in this fragrance are the note of vanilla and the note of cedarwood. And the note of vanilla in this fragrance, in my experience, is not on a very sweet side. In my opinion, it is on a lighter side. The sweetness is still present here, but it's very, very light and very bright. In my opinion, the vanilla note in this composition is beautifully complementing the top note of strawberry. And on one hand, it is the highlighting the sweetness of strawberry, but is also smoothing this sweetness out. When talking about the note of cedarwood, I would like to mention that in my opinion, this note is not very noticeable as an individual note here, but it's definitely adding a lot of depth and complexity to the fragrance. What is more, in my opinion, the note of cedarwood in this scent is beautifully complementing the heart flowery notes, and it's adding even more facets to the flowery notes in the heart of the fragrance. What is more, it is, in my opinion, an ideal base that beautifully grounds the flowery notes in the heart of the fragrance. When thinking about how beautifully harmonized this fragrance is and how many facets it has, I am convinced that this fragrance will be very appropriate for wide range of occasions and for wide range of age groups. Over the summer, I would recommend this fragrance for both, for daily use, for going to work, for running daily errands, but also for more formal evening occasions. However, over the winter, more cool months, I would recommend this scent more as a daytime fragrance. Because this fragrance is maybe slightly on a more delicate side, I believe that it will perform and last better over the warm spring and summer months. However, it will be still noticeable and appropriate for as a round year fragrance. In terms of the lasting power, I believe that on average this fragrance lasts on the skin about 4 hours. So if you are like me and if you prefer stronger scents that are visible and that are kind of noticeable, you may want to respray it during the second half of the day. But if you prefer delicate scents, like morning spray may be enough for you. In terms of projection, as I mentioned, it is difficult to describe projection for this fragrance because, as I mentioned before, when you are kind of sitting down and doing some gentle work, it becomes more of the skin scent. But if you warm up, if you walk about, if you do some more energetic movements or work, it's kind of explodes again and it's very noticeable again. And recently I had this situation when I was having a walk and I was buying a coffee on my walk, and a gentleman who was selling me the coffee, and he was standing on the other side of the counter when I was buying the coffee. He gave me a compliment for this fragrance. So I have this experience that it's projecting far more than our arm's length. As always, I strongly recommend testing this fragrance before you commit to full bottle of it. And thank you very much for watching this video today, and I invite you to watch my future videos. Thank you very much. Bye bye.